you spend hours on your game characters, working on every step, making sure all the details are correct. Now, let's actually bring it to life with the basics of game animation. Let's hop straight in. Firstly, we need to talk about the layout. So, step number one, you can either just go directly over to the animation layout, which doesn't change it that much, or we can just stick in the general layout, and all we can do is just pull up our timeline. You can also work inside of the dope sheet or the graph editor. Now, they've all like slightly different, and the best one for animating inside of like for games is the dope sheet, and I'll show you why. So, firstly, let's talk about the timeline. Timeline has basic features, usually just if you're working in general. It has your start and your end, like playback for your timeline. It also has basic view sort of things. Outside of that, you don't really have that much. Then we can go to the dope sheet. This has a lot more features, and you'll see a couple of things are missing from the timeline. But what Blender did in a recent update is they added back this menu back here. So if you drag up from the bottom, you'll see we still have our playback, our keying sets. We'll get to that in a minute. Then we have this, which is basically a auto keyer, or like anytime you change something, it will automatically add a keyframe and the same start and stop. Okay. And then we have the graph editor. Graph editor is essentially any sort of animation is going to be happening on a curve of some sort, maybe straight. It may have sort of easing, whatever. We'll get to the concepts, but the graph editor is where you can actually go and fine tune your animation. Let's go to the next one. In animation, one of the most important concepts you need to wrap your head around is keyframes. Now, if you've never worked with a keyframe before and no idea what it is, essentially you're basically stamping at whatever time. So frame one, whatever frame you want to go to, you're stamping that value. So every single thing that you can animate just needs to have a value that you can animate. You see here, like this object has a location, a rotation, and a scale. Other stuff may have other properties, but that is the basics of it. Is anything that has a value and has this little icon next to it, anything you can see throughout, having modifiers, like you can do any value you can literally animate. If it has a dot, you can animate the amount of bevel on a square. Like I can go here, add a keyframe, I can drag it forward, and I can change it to here, add a keyframe, and now if I press play, it will progressively add more to that value over time. The keyframe is just stamping that value in time at that frame. And your whole job as an animator is to obviously set those specific values correctly and also how they move between each other. Because now having this is a little bit boring. It like plays between each other, but then you could go through into the graph editor and change how it eases and stuff like that. Okay, so the first thing about easing between different keyframes is the T key. Okay. So if I press T, you can see set keyframe interpolation. We have constant. So if I press play, you'll see it just hard cuts. That's constant. This is very useful if you are following a more traditional pipeline where you have like step by step pieces. Okay. Then you have T linear. So you'll see just a direct line between each other. Cool. And then we have T Bezier. Okay. Now if we do that, you'll see it has a little bit of a smoothing where it will start slow, speed up, and then ends low. Okay. So you'll see like the middle is kind of where it does most of it. And then the ends are moving a lot slower than this middle section. That is a Bezier interpolation. You have a lot more ones. You have bounce, like it will do like there. You can use these. You can do it manually. There's a whole bunch of different things. 95% of the time, we're going to be working with these three. And like 80% of the time, you can work with Bezier. Let's talk more about keyframes. As I said earlier, we have this little keying option down here. Now, keying sets, this keying menu is essentially choosing what is going to be keyed when you press the letter I. Okay. So this keying set, we have location, we have rotation, we have a whole bunch of different like mix of all of these. Now, if you leave it at default and you press the letter I, this will add a keyframe to all of these location, rotation, and scale. Okay. So the same thing if we're animating character, all of this, that's what it will add. Okay. Now, there are other ones where we have active or available. Available, essentially what it does is if I go manually add on location, go to another frame and press I, available will set a keyframe onto something that already has a keyframe. Cool. Then we have like location and rotation. So if I do that and I go forward and I press I, you see location, rotation. So if you are animating a character that has bones, most likely you will be using location and rotation. Now, main reason for that is because you don't often scale your characters mid animation. Make sense? It's not something that your character doesn't just grow unless you're Mario or something. Then you can manually just animate that scale. But most of the time, you're going to be either moving like the position or the rotation of a bone or an object. So those are the ones that you can generally work with is the location rotation, or you can use available and then just set your keyframes that you want in the beginning of your timeline. And by the way, if you want to learn how to make low poly characters, PS1 characters, if you want to learn how to animate your game characters, if you want to learn how to create better topology, then you can join my Posture Academy. It is a collection of all of my courses all in one, and you can check it out first in description. Hope to see you there. Back to the video. Okay, so now let's talk about this like spacing and how to make stuff move like really nicely to each other. Okay, so the best way to explain this, and this is what a lot of people go through, is if I add a keyframe and I go forward like 24 frames and I just move it over like this. Okay, and that is our base animation. If I change this to linear, you'll see just moves directly across like this. This is even spacing. Cool. Now, if I go duplicate this twice like this, I'm just going to get rid of the hard one. Now, what we can do is we can change up how these are going to move. Now, the easiest one is obviously we can just go T and Bezier. Okay. So you'll see as we play back, like these two in the middle, they go a lot faster in the beginning because they're at a linear pace. And then if I like as it goes, then in the middle, it catches up. So right here, they catch up. And then towards the end, it gets there for quicker because essentially this side, it's moving very slowly. This side's moving very slowly. This is the fast section. And this is kind of a concept that doesn't really matter that much. It's a 2D concept where like essentially the spacing is like how big it is between each frame. So like here, you can see it's over here, then move it a little bit. And then like as you go on, like here, the gap between them are a lot bigger. That's essentially your speed. And the way you can also like use the graph editor to affect these is if we go to the graph editor, you can see it visualized as a curve like this. Okay. So you see basically the more diagonal this is, the faster it's moving. Okay. So essentially these sections where it is like rounding out, that means it's slowing down. And when it's rounding like up, that means it's speeding up, or obviously the same, like if it's doing this, that means it's speeding up. If it's doing that, then it's slowing down. Okay. Now we can do the same over here. So T Bezier, but we could also go and scale these keyframes. So I'm going to take this X location and I'm going to change to individual centers and scale it up. Now we're making this even steeper of a section. Now if I press play, you can see it waits a long time and then goes really quickly. Now, so this is essentially all you need to do to make really cool animations. A lot of times you can just make it very snappy. You could also just do one side. So like if I scale this all the way down, you'll see how it takes a really long time to move off. And then at the end is when it gets all of the interest. So this is like the basics of all animation. And this is also the basics of how to set keyframes and the basics of the graph editor. Now, let me actually talk a little bit more about how to use the graph editor effectively, like moving it around, using everything. So as of right now, you can see that I've actually hidden all of the other like properties. So this is kind of important because if you are working with a file that has a lot of animation on it, or even a bone that has, I mean, even here, you can see we have like 3 for location, 3 for rotation. So at bare minimum, we have like 6 channels, but some of these may not be animated. So like, yeah, if I unhide all of these, you can see that they're all just sitting here. There's no actual animation on it. So it really isn't like meaning anything to me when I'm animating. Okay. So I can go hide them. And the easy way to do this, so you could select it in your like viewport. You can select it over here and select it and go Shift H. Okay. Shift H is hiding everything other than your selected. So you could go select something and press H. So that will hide whatever you have selected. But then obviously the better one is Shift H to hide everything you don't have selected, which is quite nice because then I can just have these two, well, this curve that I've selected while I'm working. Okay. Now, another concept you need to know is the normalize feature. So if I go like, I don't know, add some rotation. So let me go frame 1, or over here, I'm going to go like, I'm going to rotate like this. Cool. I've added another keyframe, and then this actually looks quite cool. Cool. So now if we go through, we can unhide all of these. Now you'll see we have 2 keyframes. Now, the problem is, especially depending on how much you're moving, is some things are only going to move like 1 meter. So obviously these are 2 meter cubes. So imagine these were like to scale. One thing is only going to move 1 meter. And if we look over here, this is a value to 0 to 1 or 0 to 10. So if I zoom all the way in, like 0 to 1 would be up to here. Okay. But then on a rotation, it's between 0 and 360. So this one is rotating -20. So imagine it's even more than this. So here, like imagine we rotating like 90 degrees. It's going to be a lot more difficult to work on this X position when I'm doing this. So one thing we have is the normalize feature. Essentially, normalize is going to take any animation and squeeze it between a value of 1 and -1. You see, like this over here is the X movement. So if I just shift it up and down, actually, that actually brings up a point. Normalizing it is going to normalize everything. So if something just moves the tiniest amount, so if we look here, the X rotation is at 0.00001. It is moving the tiniest amount, and it is affecting, it's showing up just as big as something rotating 90 degrees. So that's why it's also quite useful to actually know what specific channels you're animating. So if I go over here, we know that the Y position, well, the Y rotation is the one that we are affecting, and the X location. So I'm going to go Shift H. Now I've selected those two, and now I just have these two to work with. Okay. You see now these are the same size. Obviously, you can toggle these on and off if you need to kind of figure it out. Because essentially, if I have all of these unhidden, so this is the X rotation, if I normalize or turn it off, now I can't even see that specific, I can't even see that property anymore because it's so tiny. Another thing, I'm moving around my viewport, and if you need to move, obviously it's like pretty default where you can minimize button. But the other thing you can do is like if you're scrolling, the problem is if you have an animation like the Y axis, if you want to just show the start and the end, but also be able to see the entire thing, how do you do that? Okay, so the way to move around your graph editor is with Control and minimize button. Okay, so if I hold Control and you use my minimize button up and down, you can see it like scales up and down, but I can also do side to side. So if like with this X-axis, I'm happy like this with the heart of it, I can make it wider like this. And for the Y, if I'm here happy with the width, but I need to see it shorter, then I can scale it down like this. Cool. So that's how you animate in the graph editor. Okay, so now that we talked about the graph editor quite in depth, let's move on to something that is very useful if you're going to be working in a game animation. And to do that, I'm going to pull up a rig so I can explain it a little bit better. Okay, so this is a rig from my game animation course. It'll be linked down below if you want to go check it out in the Potter Academy. But essentially, what we need to know is when you are animating a game character, one thing that Blender does is it has something called an action editor. Now, by default, won't see this. So you actually need to know how to get to this feature, and I'll explain why it's useful. So to get to it, you need to go open this little the thing, go to timeline, change it to dope sheet. Okay. Now at the top left of dope sheet, you see we have the dope sheet thing. Now the reason is because we have multiple other ways to work. And the one we're going to go to is the action editor. Now, if I click new, you'll see we have action, new, and it will assign it to the rig. Okay. This action can be named whatever you want. And the whole theory behind actions is essentially you can make an animation, tie it to this rig, and you can store it and make more actions. So if I do whatever, so essentially I grab the hand, add a keyframe. Now I go forward, add another keyframe. Okay. You see, moves between it. Now I can go X on this, make a new, and then if I go, like you see, I no longer have these keyframes. So I can now do a different keyframe, like animation. Maybe let's start up here, add a keyframe, and then move it to down here, add a keyframe. Cool. So now this is animating, but I can swap back to my original action and it has that keyframe still. So you can see how this is pretty useful for a game because if you needed to do something like a walk and then a run and then a jump and then a crouch and then an idle, all of these can fit within one blend file. So you can just have your character animations.blend and all of these will be in the same blend file and attached to the same rig. If you take this blend file, export it as FBX, all of those get based in the same file, and you can just drag and drop it into your game, and all of your animations will be there ready to go. You don't have to worry about multiple files, getting them all assigned to the right rig, which is quite a nightmare. This is a really nice feature. So it's quite important for your whole game animation process because this makes your life a lot easier. One thing that's quite important when doing this is to have this little shield icon ticked. The reason for this is because if you take this and I go click X on it and it doesn't have the shield on, if I click X, you see it will not be saved, create a fake user, or stash it in the NLA stack. So the reason is there's no actually real feature or like way to delete them. you can only do it by taking off the fake user or not assigning to a fake user, saving your file and closing. So if you close your file and you don't have it saved as a fake user, then when you reopen it, these will be deleted. Okay, cool. So now we've gone over animation, animation basics, all that good stuff. Now let's talk more specifically about how to animate using rigs. Cool. So the first way, if you get a rig in your scene and it just has like this and you can select it, but you're like not able to actually move any of the bones like this, what you need to do is you need to press Control Tab, and that will take you to pose mode, or you can just change your modes up here, mode up here. So you have object mode, edit mode, pose mode. Edit mode is for actually editing the rig. So if you're rigging a character, you'll be in edit mode. Pose mode is for animating your character. So in pose mode, default like transforms apply. So you can do G, R, and S. As I said, so a lot of stuff won't actually be set up to scale correctly. You'll see like some stuff may scale, but generally you're not animating the scale for your character. And that's why you should be working with your keying set to location and rotation. Now, me personally, my favorite way of animating is firstly, I would go turn on a sort of visual like transform onto my bones. Now, you can either do that just by selecting your transforms over here on the left, or you can go turn it on over here in your viewport gizmo. So personally, I would have rotation because that's one I usually care about. Like a lot of the time, I'd be rotating stuff, and you can see that currently it is actually attached to the orientation of the bone. The reason for that is because I'm in the local space. So by default, you have global, and global is just the like X, Y, and Z of your world. So world space, global space, same difference. So this is the orientation of your. Actually, you can see it over here. Okay, that's your XYZ. That's your global space. Now, local space is like each bone has the same thing, but if you rotate it, that starts rotating the orientation of the bone. So if I select it, you can see like this lines up with the bone. And if I went to the move tool, you'll see like it lines up with like X, Y, and Z. So it's quite important when you're rigging that you set these up correctly to work properly. But when you're animating with a rig that's been set up correctly, it's a lot nicer to just work with a specific axis. Main reason for it is because if you're animating just that specific axis, then it allows you to have a lot cleaner of a like graph. Because imagine if like this center of gravity, just moving it up and down. If I had it rotated like this, then like or whatever, like if it wasn't set up correctly by default where the bone is like rotated, then me moving it down would move on multiple axes, and having to like polish that in the graph editor would be an absolute nightmare because you'd have to be working with multiple different axes at once. So I like just rotating because there, if I rotate my X, it pops up there. Okay, cool. I hope this was a great introduction to game animation inside of Blender. If you want to learn more, my game animation course will be linked down below in the Partner Academy. If you want to learn how to make your own low poly characters, PSN characters, all that good stuff, the links will be down below. If not, then you can watch this video over here on how to make some really cool rigs inside of Blender.